To share with you tonight, being that Valentine's Day just passed, I think it was worth it to talk about or continue our lesson about relationships. And hopefully I'll be able to deal with it very soon, but it's called When Helping You is Killing Me. But God led me another way. So I'm going to be quite transparent with you. I need your help tonight, okay? So tonight, usually I try to stand before you with this big front, like I'm one big boss guy and mean and, you know, untouchable and unapproachable. Tonight I'm gonna talk about me. I'm gonna let myself be an instrument of ministry before you. You ready? Mm-hmm. All right. Turn with me to 2 Kings. 2 Kings chapter 5. Oh, speak, Lord. Second Kings chapter 5.
Is this okay?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay.
Hello, Facebook audience.
What interpretation are you reading?
I'll be reading from King James. You can use any version you like. I don't have any notes, so we're going to be dealing with more of a revelationary teaching tonight.
Amen.
You said 2 Kings?
2 Kings chapter 5. You ready? Y'all ready? Talk back to me, don't you?
Amen.
Yes.
Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master, and honorable. Look at his resume. And honorable because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. Do you know anybody that has, and maybe this is you, that has this great big resume? They're responsible for so many things, and you look at them with such great admiration, but there's something undercover in the armor that may be falling apart. Do you know anybody like that? That don't sound Christian, though. Who was that, Bethany? You got an R&B ringtone. Naaman was a outstanding commander-in-chief of a host, an army. Are you following me? A large army. And he wore this great armor, and he has this big resume, but the Bible says he was a leper. Mm. Have you ever been in a place where you're a leader, or you're admired, or you're in a great place, or you have a great responsibility? However, because of your vulnerability, you don't want to show it because you feel as though if you show it, you won't be as effective as a leader as you possibly could be. This was the story of Naaman. And in fact, this is the story of me. Because for so many years, I stood afraid of standing before people because I thought I had to show a certain front before you in order for you to love me. I know I'm not the only one.
Come on.
I thought I had to wear an S on my chest and say yes to everybody and say no to me to the risk of killing myself trying to be a people pleaser. I suffered from low self-esteem And I was motivated by what people thought of me, so much so that I became ineffective. I'm telling on myself now, but I know this is for somebody.
Oh, yeah, come on.
He said Naaman was a leper. And if you know anything about leprosy, when you have leprosy, things are falling apart. Your limbs are falling apart. Your fingers are falling apart. Your skin is falling apart. And you show, or as a matter of fact, in those days, you had to announce yourself before you came up to anybody and said, hey, I'm a leper, before you were able to approach anybody. Have you ever been in a place where you had to stand strong while things are falling apart?
Yes.
You had to be strong for somebody else while things in your own life is falling apart. Things behind the scenes are falling apart. And this whole time, your armor is shining. Your persona works for you. But inside, the whole time, things are falling apart. He was a leper. He was a leper. And the Syrians had gone out by companies and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said unto her mistress, would God, my Lord, were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him from his leprosy. So basically, the little girl that was captured, she spoke a word and said, listen, there's a prophet in Samaria, and in Samaria, and he can heal this thing. Okay? And one went in and told his Lord, saying, or his master, saying, thus and thus said the maid that is of the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, go, and I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. Basically, Naaman, this great commander, this great chief of an army of Syria, listened to a little maid. Suppose he waited until the message of healing came to him in the package he expected.
All right.
Be careful or be aware to not risk your healing or your wholeness waiting on the message to come from a package.
Amen.
Oh, I know I'm speaking in the house.
Amen.
So only if it comes from a certain person, you'll only receive it because it's coming from a certain package. But the whole time you may be killing or risking yourself not being healed because it's coming from a place you didn't expect.
That's good. That's right. Right. That's good.
Suppose he waited on a revivalist to get his word.
Right.
Amen. But suppose he waited on Bishop Jakes to get his word.
Right.
He would have still been sitting there because God is speaking, and he will speak to whomsoever he will. He's God, and he doesn't report to you.
Right.
Stop waiting on the package.
Amen.
Get the word.
Right.
Get the word. Get the word. The word could come from a dog. I don't care. If I'm in a place of desperation,
Amen.
I don't care where this word comes from. I need a word.
Amen.
Oh, come on, somebody.
Amen.
Right. With you.
And the king of Syria said, go, and I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. And he departed and took with him 10 talents of silver and 6,000 pieces of gold and 10 changes of raiment. See, he packed up. He was ready. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, now when this letter is come unto thee, behold, I have therewith sent Naaman my servant to thee, that thou mayest recover him from leprosy. Here's the thing, chapter 7. And it came to pass, when the king of Israel had read the letter, that he rent his clothes. So he ripped his clothes off and said, Am I God to kill and to make alive, that this man doth sin unto me to recover a man in his leprosy? Wherefore consider, I pray you, and see how he seeketh a quarrel against me. And it was so, when Elijah, the man of God, had heard that the king of Israel had rent his clothes, that he sent to the king, saying, Wherefore hast thou rent thy clothes? Let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman, out of obedience, came with his horses and with his chariot, and stood at the door of the house of Elijah. Now, I want you to picture this. Naaman is this great, renowned person, right? And he came expecting to see Elijah the prophet, that the maid told him about. And Elijah sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be. Do you know how demoralizing that could have been?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He's accomplished all of this. He's won all these wars now. So his name had to have been hot. He had to have had over 5,000 followers on Facebook, or 1 million followers on Twitter, how it is today.
Right.
And he is renowned for winning wars, okay? And he was sent to a prophet in Syria called Elisha, went all the way to his house, gathered all of his good stuff. He packed up, got his gold, got his silver, got his chariots, got his horses, in order to provide a gift to the prophet, because in those days it was standard procedure. When you go see the man of God, you provide a gift, but that may not always be the case in these days.
Right.
I'm sorry. But in those days, it was a standard, just like when you visit the king or you see the king, you shall bring a gift. When you visit the man of God, you shall bring a gift. Mm-hmm. But he comes up to the door, falling apart the whole time, yet still has his armor on, and Elijah sends his servant to see him. So I can just imagine Naaman saying, I done came all the way over here to see you, Negro. And you gonna send your maid, your servant, and do you know who I am? Do you know how terrible pride could be when you're falling apart?
Yes.
I mean, no, seriously, do you know how detrimental pride can be? I know you're great. I know you're filled with heaven's best. But when God gives you a word and he gives you instruction, you better follow it just the way he does it. And if the package doesn't look like the way you want it to look like, just receive the healing however God sends it to you, so you can be healed and move on about your business. Right. Stop being so big and important all the time. Right. Let God be God.
Yeah.
He sends his servant to the door to give instructions. Elijah was a bad boy. He was a bad boy. He told the servant, don't give him the instructions to dip in the water in Jordan 7 times. It says, and Elijah sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash, this is verse 10, in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean. But Naaman was wroth. He was mad. He was upset, saying, you must don't know who I am. I have 5,000 followers. And he went away and said, Behold, I thought he will surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord, his God, maybe not my God, but his God, and strike his hand over the place and recover the leprosy. Are not Abana and Pharpar rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel? So here, okay, wait a minute. So not only was he prideful about who gave him the instruction, but he was prideful about the instruction. Apparently the river Jordan was too dirty for him. So he was like, well, apparently there are more rivers that are cleaner, that are cuter, that are nicer, that I can go to, and I can get healed the way I want to be healed.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right.
So I won't stick my nasty, dirty, falling apart flesh and dirty water. I want to be in some clean water, but the whole time he was in his flesh, dirty, falling apart behind his armor. Are not Abana and Pharpar rivers of Damascus better than all the waters in Israel? He said, I should have the best. May I not wash in them to be clean? So he turned and went away in a rage. You know what that reminds me about? That reminds me of people that has to be acknowledged when they themselves have an issue or a problem behind the scenes, and they don't want anyone else to see their issue, that they're falling apart, but yet and still, if you don't sit them in front of the church, they have the nerve to have an attitude. Or if you don't acknowledge them from the pulpit, they have the nerve to have an attitude. Or if you don't give them a position in the church, they have the nerve to have, but they're falling apart now. They're covering their rotten skin and flesh behind the armor. Their toes are falling apart. Their life is falling apart. Their consciousness is falling apart. Their mind is falling apart. Their spirit is dying because they're no longer speaking or praying to the God of the source of their spirit. They're falling apart, but they don't have a position, so they got to leave in a huff.
All right.
Or when you rebuke them, then they have to leave the church and they can't stand any correction. But it's them that's having the issue and they came to you for correction. And then when you finally come and give them correction, then they have to leave. That's you that has the messed up body. Get yourself and get to that dirty pool so you can clean your flesh.
Right. Say that.
It's you.
Teach us in here.
Go somewhere and shut up so you can be healed.
Yeah, you're right.
I think so.
Come on, Pastor Dante.
So he turned away, went away in rage. And his servants came near and spake unto him and said, my father, my Lord, my leader. This is his name is servant. Now, if the prophet had told you to do something big and great and hard and almost impossible, wouldn't you have done it with your prideful self? How much rather than when he said to simply go wash and clean yourself in the pool and be clean, why is that so difficult for you? Why is it so difficult for someone to tell you that you have to turn your plate over sometimes and fast?
Come on.
Oh, fasting is not popular today, I know. It's not. Or that you actually have to have a consistent prayer life. And wash and be clean. So you have to tell somebody to turn around 3 times and flip around in a circle, or do a backflip, or do a $1,000 line in order for them to be healed, when all someone's telling you is to simply have a consistent prayer life. How simple is that? He said, if the prophet told you something difficult, you would have did it.
Right.
But he's telling you something as simple as throwing your nasty self in the pool, and you have an issue with it. Then he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God, and his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. In those 14 verses, it describes me, I think, perfectly, because I was one of a lot of people don't like to tell the truth just the way it is, but I was one of the ones that had that prideful spirit, and therefore I sat there with my life falling apart behind my armor, because they didn't know who I was. But I said all that to say this. God is not interested in your persona.
All right.
He did not come to save your armor. He came to save you.
Amen.
And he is coming to heal your vulnerabilities, whether you want to show it or not. But it's up to you to be obedient and just do what the Lord has said.
Right.
That you don't want anybody to see. You want to keep it as a secret. And you're waiting on a particular package for you to be healed. This is the day that you drop your vulnerability, drop your pride, take off your armor, and you may have to do something dirty. I mean, you really may have to actually roll your sleeves up and just simply forget how you look, because you may not have to. See, some deliverances are not pretty.
Amen.
Oh, come on.
Amen.
They're not pretty. They're not meant to be pretty. Your situation is not pretty. So why in the world is your deliverance going to be pretty?
Right.
It's a dirty situation. It's a dirty task. It's a daunting task. And it's a process. That's why it proves that it's a process, because that's why he wasn't healed on the first dip.
All right.
He wasn't healed on the first dip.
Yes.
Right.
It is a process for your cleanliness to possibly change your evil disposition in your mind.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It is good stuff.
Someone say it's a process.
It's
It's
a
a
process.
process.
He said dip 7 times. Some people would have gave up on the 6th time. Suppose he did. Suppose he did give up on that 6th time, saying this is ridiculous. It makes no sense. He sent his servant to speak to me, and he don't know who I am. He would have sat there and been a leprous Naaman the whole time. And he wouldn't have been able to fight the battles he was used to fighting.
Right.
Stop giving up in between or in the midst of your process.
Amen.
I want to say it again. Do not give up in the midst of your process.
Right.
It may take you longer than expected,
Right.
but if it's you going through the process and you need to be healed and you need to be whole, go through the entire process and stop looking at us, the preachers, the pastors,
Right.
like we've done something to you
Right.
if you haven't been obedient to the word.
Right.
These are Naaman moments.
Right.
Naaman moments.
Yes.
Naaman moments. God is coming to heal your vulnerability. It's your vulnerability. It's those secret places. It's the crevices. It's the crevices. That's why Jesus, as a matter of fact, I want to take that back. It's not the fact that he's just simply trying to heal you. He's trying to make you whole.
Right.
Yes.
There's a difference. There's a difference between being healed and being whole. And whenever you notice in the Bible, reading the writ of Jesus, the history of Jesus, whenever he spoke to someone, he didn't just simply stop at healing. He said, now, daughter, you are whole. You are made whole. Or son, you are made whole. The 10 lepers that came to Jesus, and they said, we're leprous. We had to announce ourselves. And he said, go show yourself to the priest. Y'all remember that story? And they went, as they went, showing themselves, about to show themselves to the priest, they became healed. But then there was one of those people that came back to tell Jesus, thank you. And he said, son, you are made whole. It was the crevice, the difference. It was the crevice between that healing and that wholeness that made the difference. The one person came back, told Jesus or offered Jesus thanksgiving, and he made him whole. So it's not necessarily the factor of him just simply being happy with you being healed.
All right.
He's calling for your wholeness. Wholeness in your mind, wholeness in your heart, wholeness in your spirit, wholeness in your consciousness. I don't want to be healed anymore. I want to be whole.
Amen.
I want to be whole. Anybody want to be whole?
Yes.
I want to be whole. So however long it takes, it may not be a snap of a finger, it may not be 3 circles, it may not be a flip. I just want to be whole. I just want to be saved.
Right.
I just want to be right.
Yeah.
I don't pray those kind of prayers anymore. I just want to be whole. Hey.
It's for horses.
Hmm?
He said, hey, I said, it's for horses. No, I want to explore something. Just given with the context of the scripture reference that you gave, and 2 things that you mentioned, one being pride and one being vulnerability. Pride is a noun, vulnerability is an adjective. Then you also mentioned the difference between healing and wholeness. So, in exegeting, as you could say, healing and wholeness, I think we could explore being whole without being healed and being healed without being whole. At the same time, exploring vulnerability and pride, because the way I was tracking with you was that pride and vulnerability were synonymous, when in fact with one being an adjective and one being a noun, they're actually different. And they can be standalone components of one's spirituality, so to speak, and one's individual course of trek in the journey that you spoke of. And so it seems like sometimes the lines between what is pride and what is vulnerability are not always understood by the person and also by the perceivers, right? Because you made a statement that Jesus isn't coming for your persona, or God isn't coming for your persona, right? But I think like in different classes, we've also touched on or explored the fact that sometimes the persona does matter, which is not necessarily what you are portraying, but what other people are perceiving, right? Because we could all say at the end of the day, your perception is not my reality, and my reality is not your perception, right? But at the same time, that does tend to get in the way, especially for those people that are supposed to elevate with you. Right? Because if I'm supposed to elevate with you, however, I perceive what you're giving off to be prideful, yet I feel as an individual, using Candace as an example, that I'm being exclusive and subclusive with my vulnerability, then there's a disconnect, right? Because everybody isn't worthy of your vulnerability. Which is why some people perceive it as being prideful, but really you're just being selective. Right? Like you really have to check your circle, so to speak, right? You have to be conscious of those people who you show everything to, because everybody isn't supposed to see everything. So some people can't see you in your vulnerable states because those are the people that will use your vulnerability as an attack against you. When really your vulnerability is being reserved for those people who are supposed to see it, right? So I think I just want to see where
just to explore that, absolutely.
That, because
so what I was talking about was more in regards to persona. I was talking about image. God is not here to heal someone's image, or they're wondering how they are looking to someone, or wondering how important they are to a particular crowd. He's coming to save you, the real you. And I'm talking about God. I'm not talking about people. Because some people, you're just not going to seek my vulnerability. Right. Everyone's not able to handle all my,
you're not
able to handle some of my deepest, darkest secrets, because that's a part of trust.
Right.
Okay. But when it comes to pride, you're talking about this. Did you feel like I was talking about pride and vulnerability being synonymous?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. When I was discussing pride and vulnerability is in this context. In regards to pride, a lot of pride, and this is from my own experience, came or was rooted from fear. Okay? The reason I didn't show myself vulnerable even to those in my circle, trying to be Superman to everybody, even in my circle, and I came off as someone that was stoic, still do, I'm still working on it. That's why I'm smiling on purpose. Even in my circle, it was my fear of how, thank you, pull your pants up. It was my fear of how I was perceived to even my inner circle that kept me from my own perception of myself. Because secret is, I had a poor perception of my own self. Y'all looking to be quiet because I'm telling on myself?
No. You can relate. That's why.
Y'all can relate? Okay. So it kept me from being vulnerable to those who even deserved it. Who was worth my vulnerability. But in regards to my relationship with God, I want to be in a place where I'm always vulnerable with Him. It's a personal space. And I don't even want to be prideful with Him, blocking His access or acting as if He don't know what's wrong with me. You know how we do. Okay. And praying those false prayers or those lying prayers, saying, Lord, I really don't have an issue with this, but if you'll just simply deliver me from this, then I'll be all right. And then I can just see God looking at you like,
I know. Come
as
on.
if He doesn't know. I kept myself blocked, especially with most of my church family. I was guilty of that. And it took me losing fear, dismissing fear, because I can't necessarily say I lost it, dismissing fear in order for me to be vulnerable to those who deserve that vulnerability.
Can I ask something? And this is just, again, for our own edification, to be able to take something away from the story of Naaman and from Pastor Bowie. If we are to see ourselves in this particular character, maybe see our own pride, maybe see how we might be puffed up while we're falling apart, what or how do we get to the place where we desire the healing more than we do our position?
Right.
Or how do we desire to be whole more than the front that we put up? What is the motivator there?
Let me tell you something. It takes being tired. When you're in an abusive relationship, has anyone ever been in an abusive relationship in here? I remember I had a friend. He was in a relationship for almost 12 years. Okay. And he kept coming to me about the same situation till I got sick and tired and said, look, I don't want to hear it anymore. If you ain't going to leave him, just leave me alone, okay? I love you, but I have to have boundaries. You're making my nerves bad. But I told him something. I said, dude, the only thing that keeps you getting knocked upside your head is you ain't tired enough. When you get sick of a situation and tired of a situation to where you have to move, and you get sick of yourself to where you have to change.
Right.
See, some people, they'll stick in their mess so long because they're not sick of themselves yet. Yeah, they're not sick of their situation. They're more attached to the enemies they like. Oh, that was good.
It was. That was deep too.
Yes.
I was just kind of saying what you were kind of saying and what he was saying too at the same time. Like on Sunday when you were preaching, God was speaking to me, and then he was speaking through you to me about I was fearful of being successful. And I was like, it's always there. It's one of my weaknesses. I know I can be successful, but I'm fearful. And that's when I was like, that's something that it's a vulnerability. You have to work, like you said, I'm tired of just accepting what I'm doing, but why can I not be successful? Because I can be.
Yeah, you have to give yourself permission to be success, baby.
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's a good point.
Mm.
Anyone else?
You know, I was just thinking about too, is that it's about age and employment can be that way too. You know, when you get older and you're in the workforce, you know, you have a whole different perspective than when you're a young buck coming into the workforce. You know, you want to work all them hours and stuff. And then even the commitment from the job to the employee is different with age, you know. So, I don't say more of a fear or something like that about that, because you really don't have it when you're young. And when they start looking at you a little sideways, like, how many years you been working? When they start asking you how many years you've been working there, yeah, that's kind of a sign that they, you know, and you thinking, I got at least a good 10, 15 more years in me, you know, but they don't see that in you, you know. So the deal is that you think, God, wow, yeah, mortgage, you know, you've got kids in college, you know. It's sometimes being committed to the wrong thing for the wrong reason, gets in the wrong place, and that's how one time we get lost in the wrong spot.
I think you were giving me a hint that I'm getting older. Was that?
No, I'm waiting on you.
I'm just playing.
No.
All right.
No, this is insecurities and fears.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I really believe we're coming into a place where we can just simply be real and be real with God. And not necessarily serve our position or our image, but we can have hope in the fact that we can be healed, we can be whole. Yes.
You spoke earlier concerning operating in ministry and being broken at the same time. And when we talk about pride, you know, there are individuals or persons who would rather, you know, continue to force themselves to be productive in a ministry or in ministry, rather than just stepping back and saying, look, I can't do this right now. I'm depressed. I'm aggravated. I don't like the people I work with in ministry. You know, where's the outlet for me? What can I do? What kind of strategy or what's available to me? What kind of advice? What kind of prayer? I need someone to help me. But instead of doing that, instead of being vulnerable and saying I'm not able to effectively operate in this capacity, then we continue to be what looks like productivity to others when it's really, we're really killing ourselves.
Right.
I remember when we had the church in Atlanta, and I could not, I was like, inclusive church, with gay people in it? You know, and so I would like go somewhere else because I was running from what I didn't know at the time was a calling in my life, but I wasn't ready to do that. And I was conscious enough in my right mind to know that I'm not able to do this. I'm not going to fake like I'm going to be this great minister, this great adjutant, this great person in ministry when I'm not ready to do that. I don't want to have anyone's life in my hand and I mishandle it because the Bible says the blood will be on my hands. I would never want to do that. But then it's just like, are people at a mature place in their lives in ministry to say, look, I can't do this right now. Can someone give me a grace period? Can someone counsel me and tell me what to do?
Let me tell you about Sunday, okay? Sunday, I was over this. Over it. I wanted to get back in the bed, and I would say, I'll see y'all next week. Because I felt I was stretched to my very limit while trying to keep up an image towards you to say that's big, bad, strong Pastor Dante while I was dying. Dying. And I had to go somewhere and I had to get my head together and just simply be honest with the process to where I can start this place of where I'm not afraid to be vulnerable before you anymore. Because I can show you as a leader that I'm human too.
Right.
I hurt too.
Mm-hmm.
Some people get on my nerves too.
Okay.
Okay. But it takes a place of maturity. Minister D'Antoine, just to point towards that. It takes a place of maturity.
And just to add to that, to what D'Antoine was raising, I believe even just having this conversation helps us to really think through that, you know, and ask, am I being Naaman? Am I trying so hard to prove that I can, that I'm destroying myself? Because again, when you really think about this, and you really paint the picture, leprosy literally was such a terrible, like their fingers would fall off, like they would fall off. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like, and this is the thing that's amazing about what happens with us a lot of times. He's a leper. And if anybody saw him, they would know he's a leper. Mm-hmm. And this is the issue that so many of us have. We are so into ourselves that we think people can't see we are all messed up.
Right. Yes.
You are not fooling anybody except yourself. And you would be in a better position to just be honest about it and say, hey, dude, look, this is what I'm dealing with right here. Can you give me a minute while I go and wash in the pool? You know, but when you get so full of yourself and you're in your own way, you deny yourself your own time. Because all you got to do sometimes is just step out for a minute, go get in the pool. You understand what I'm saying? Get yourself together, and then you can come back and be okay. And so we got to realize that our fingers are falling off. You understand what I'm saying? You realize that we're in need of some holes. Candace got a question in the corner.
Well, it's not really a question, but it's more like a different set of lenses to look through, right? So like in listening to the dialogue, I think that, well, not I think, but I mean, I read, so I understand, therefore I know that the idea of settling, right? Like everybody knows what it means to settle, but an antonym for settle is to prolong. And I think a lot of times what happens as people is we get into the mindset of settling, but the antagonist of settling is prolonging. So instead of just realizing that we as people say we settle with God, right? Like, as you said, using it as a bargaining chip. Well, I don't really have an affliction with pornography, but if you'll just deliver me from promiscuity, right, then we can find a happy medium, right? What that really is saying is I'm settling for the lesser of two evils, right? But instead of consciously awakening our minds to say I'm actually settling for something, and not realizing, and also realizing I'm rationalizing these two mediums in my life. And so I'm going to settle for the lesser of these two evils, which is only going to prolong my strife. It's only going to prolong my inability to reveal my true self with the people who I deem to be counted worthy. Not even getting to the people who God has said, these are your Gideonites. Right? Like these are your soldiers. These are your warriors. I can't even see those people because the lesser of two evils in my life, my settling, it has caused me to not realize that I need to go clean myself. It's caused me to settle, which the definition of settling is coming easy. Well, one of them is to become even with, right? So now I can't realize that I need to be in a place of ascension. I can't realize, I can't conceptualize, I can't see that I need to go clean myself. I can't, because the one thing at the beginning when we first started the conversation, you kept saying, well, with your prideful self, why can't you see? Why can't you realize? Why can't you do? I can't any of those things because my vision is leveled with the things around me, right? So I can't see that this is not really where I'm supposed to be because my plane is even, because I've settled. I settled, which means I settled in, which means nothing around me is uneven. Nothing around me is rocky, even though it doesn't feel right, even though it doesn't sound right, even though it doesn't taste good. I can't see that it's not right because I'm settled in with everything around me. And I think that that's what happens, like at church, when things need to be done, people settle into the mindset that it has to be done, so it must be me. Or they asked me, I did it last year, I was good at it 2 years ago, I was good at it at the theater, so I gotta be good at it over here at 18, 12, right? Like, we can't really see that it doesn't have to be me, it can be somebody else. Like, somebody else on the usher board is a better usher teacher than me. So I can't see that they're a better usher teacher than me because I was the chief usher teacher at the other place, right?
But this, Candace, this goes back to what the man said a minute ago. It's a matter of maturity. And
But
so
is
you
it-
have to,
But what I'm raising is it only maturity? Like, does maturity really help you to see that the things around you all look the same when you're being called to a higher place? I guess is what I'm trying to raise, because even though there are mature people still settle. So that's what I was wondering.
well,
like,
let me say that, because when we talk about maturity, that is something that is progressive. Because you can mature to a certain level and get to that level, and still yet there is another level of maturity that you raise to.
So you're saying that maturity is a continuum
It is a
state of
continuum.
being, not just that you mature and then
It's a-
here
it's
You never
it's
arrive.
never destination.
You never arrive
I
to it.
didn't hear that.
It's a-
And
it's
so
a
when
journey,
we
it's
talk
never
about,
destination.
and what he said, when we talk about it being revelatory, and being revelatory is a process. It is always revealing. And so even having this conversation tonight is revelatory. I think each of us, if we really grasp what he said,
Right.
have now been challenged in our consciousness to move to another level.
Right.
I think that's what we have to look at. And so, yes, you're absolutely right in that people do settle in. We find what is it called? Homeostasis, I think, is your natural place where you land or whatever. And so everything does look level. But then when a word comes, are y'all not listening to me?
We're listening.
Oh, I was kind of directing my conversation over there, but she was having nothing. So, but, my point is that words like this come about to prick our consciousness, and we realize, oh, I need to move to another level. And so that's, I think, what we should take away from this, is that realizing, although we may have matured to a certain level, we've got to say, do I see Naaman in this, and is there more that I can do? And do I really still need to go again in a progressive way to dip in the pool and get to the next level?
Amen. Amen.
Do you need to
I
go
said, do
again?
I need to go again? That's an interesting question.
So why is that interesting?
Why is it interesting to me?
Yes, to you.
personally? Well, because I personally don't ever ask myself, do I need to go again? I only ever ask myself, why did I stop?
Okay.
So do I need to go again? To me is an interesting question, because I'm like, I never think about, do I need to go again? I'm only concerned about when I plateaued, why did I plateau? Right, so it's not like, because in my mind, I should be always moving. Like,
Right.
as me, as an individual, I don't ever want to, I don't want to ever end, right? Like, we don't want to never end, is what came in. I mean, I kind of like music, so that's what popped in my head, like, I don't want to never end. But that's always what I think about. I never think about, like, do we go again, as in, like, do I need to go higher?
You
Or
know,
do I need to go further? Or do I need to go differently? Right? Because again, could be a lot of different things. I just found the way that it was posed interesting in the context of Naaman and,
you would be
having
shocked.
to announce and all of those different components of our conversation.
Minister Candace, you'd be shocked at how many complacent Christians you have around you. People that they, when we talk about settle, they'll sit there and they will wallow in their leprosy, but because it takes work in order for them to go and do something about it, they'll sit there and they'll quit. And that's becoming an epidemic.
That's a word right there.
Frankly, in today's
World, right.
world, when it takes work and effort and breath and brow and sweat, then we'll sit there and we'll hold on and won't move and won't do anything, and we'll sit there and settle with our foolishness. Yes.
I'm just listening to the conversation, and it's just really interesting. conversation was happening, I was really thinking about what Candace just said in terms of, do I need to go dip again, or why did I stop? And when she said that, I just kind of thought about the vulnerability that it takes for a person to ask themselves the question,
Do I need to dip again?
do I need to dip again, versus maybe a prideful approach to saying, why did I stop? You know what I'm saying? It's like two different approaches to the same question. Because ultimately you end up doing the same thing if you go and dip again. But it's the way that your mindset approaches it as to what, you know what I'm saying? I'm not, maybe not communicating it effectively or not, but I think it takes a lot more vulnerability to say to yourself, maybe I do need to go and dip again. Maybe I do need to explore, you know, what I'm doing that I still need to, that has caused me to settle.
Or maybe I was wrong.
Absolutely.
Maybe I can make a mistake.
But I think it ties back into the start of the conversation. I just have to say this in my own mind because I pondered the same thing, only for a second, but it's because I know where I was tracking with that. Right? Like I have like 5 conversations happening right here. But when you said like it could take a different or a higher level of vulnerability to say, do I need to dip again, versus the pride side saying, why did I stop, right? I think we could look at it in reverse as well and say vulnerability also could say, why did I stop? Because I think about me personally, and I'm always one to use Candace as my own example in analyzing or algorizing things and processing things. And I think to myself, why did I stop trying to make friends? Right? That's always an area of what some people consider a vulnerability, but I take pride in the fact that I don't have a lot of friends. So that's always a cliche type of thing that happens in my life, right? So I think like, for me, I say it caused me to be extremely vulnerable first with myself to say, why did I stop trying to make friends? That was a hard conversation. It was painful, it was in-depth, it was scabbing, which you know scabbing, just continually pulling back layers and layers and layers and layers till I got to the constant, to what was the constant for why did I stop trying to make friends, right? My pride, for me, it's just me, my pride was like, dog, you got you, right? But my vulnerability was like, it's nice to have a friend. So for me, you know, like just like I said, using me as an example, I think on both sides, it's interesting, I think again, when we go back to the start of the conversation with vulnerability being an adjective and pride being a noun, and just how intricately they work together, even though, like when I was processing, I was like, but they're so different. But the more that we dig into it, they really are parallel idioms, right? Because it's like perception. You may see it one way and I see it another way, but we get to the same end result, which is an in-depth introspection of whatever it is that we're going
That's
to
what life
do, right?
is all about. But let's see, to me, having the fewer friends, the better.
Say that.
Can I get a good amen with that?
Amen.
If you can find at
Yes,
least
Jesus.
maybe in a lifetime, maybe 3 good ride or dies, you did really good.
Yes.
But what I'm talking about in regards to naming are the unhealthy places that you're falling apart in. Unhealthy relationships, unhealthy mindsets, and some people are so complacent. Some people know it's something wrong, but they don't want to put in the work in order to get to a resolution. Right. And then there are some people that they would just simply sit there and they'll sit in dysfunction, acting as if they could do no wrong. So some of them refuse to see, some of them just don't know, and then there are some of them who are complacent. You know, all of those are some issues and dysfunction. But by gosh, if you receive instruction, do what God said, regardless of the package.
Yeah, and I just use friendship because I use me as an example, right? So that's an area of opportunity. In my own life, I'll just leave it like that. That's an area of opportunity in my own life because I'm a open, closed book, right? And I'm an open, closed book. There's nothing that's off limits for me, but I don't just go around sharing and disclosing.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
if you ask me, there's not anything that I won't tell you about anything I've been through, overcome, still going through, have been afflicted with. And so I see myself as an open, closed book, but for friendships concerning, like that can be really dysfunctional in to a lot of people who look from the outside in. Like they might see that as an inhibitor in life, where I, on the other hand, don't see it that way. As you said, the fewer friends, the better. I got one good Judy. And I feel like that's all I need.
Right.
We've been rocking for like 12 years so far. I'm like, child, if I never find another good Judy, that's okay. Right, but you know what I'm saying, like, so I think, what do you do when you, well, not what do you do, but what do you think, like, when you plateau, right? So we're at this naming state where we need to consider and evaluate, and where we hear the voice of God, but we're plateaued. So anybody, you know what a plateau is, you're just there, like, there's no decline, there's no ascension, you're just there. So then what? Because I think, I don't know, I just feel like that's where we came
I felt like I was in a place of plateau for a while. Can I just be vulnerable? I need this. I felt like I was in a place of plateau for a while until I just simply owned it. I had to admit it to myself so my perspective of who I really am could change so I can fix it.
Own it, the situation,
Own the
or in the
situation.
plateau? Or both?
Own the situation.
Okay.
I'm not going to own the plateau.
Okay.
Because if I can progress any type of way I need to, then I need to do what I need to do to move forward. But I had to own the situation.
I like that.
I was just going to say that even though it's a plateau has a raised ridge of land. It's flat. So because you plateau, that doesn't stop you from seeing where you went or where you used to be or where you came from. So you know that there is more out there. You just get
complacent.
I guess you get tired of sitting.
Oh, sitting in one
place. Sometimes you'll walk to the edge of that plateau and you'll see out
Yeah.
where you once was, and then you can understand, hey, if it's that much back there, I know it's something forward.
Yeah.
So you take that step.
But a plateau is a plateau regardless of the height.
Okay. Yeah, same thing.
Regardless of the height. It can be this high, it can be that high, but a plateau is a plateau. It's a flat area right on the top, and you're not moving or going anywhere. My God, you need to move somewhere. No, regardless of what height, regardless of what depth, there should be some type of progress. Amen.
I like that, not limiting yourself to the plateau. I like that.
I gotta move.
Yes.
All right. So as you know, life class is, the purpose of life class is dealing with practical matters with biblical principle.
Right.
How many enjoyed life class tonight?
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's stand.